Welcome back for part 3 of this OpenRoads show. Moving forward, we're going to begin to create the horizontal and vertical alignments and profiles for our project. And if you remember, I was discussing the survey features. I figured that out, and we no longer have an issue. Everything was coded correctly. As you can see, they're all, there's no red features for either points or linear, so we're good to go with our survey. I do need to create the terrain, so I'm just going to right click here on the field book in the Project Explorer and hit Create Terrain Model. And there it goes. And then I'm going to turn the triangles on and check to make sure we don't have any voids or gaps in our terrain model. Everything's looking good. Alright, so next we are going to create a new 2D file in our roadway folder. Again, I'm just going to keep the name S228 underbar, and this one's going to be called alignments. Alright, first I'm going to reference that survey. And then fit view, and there we can see it. And first thing I want to do, I want to select the terrain and I want to make it active. I can do that through the context menu, or I can come up here to the terrain tab and use these tools to set it active. I like to do as much as I can from that context menu. We can turn those triangles off. If you have them set in the reference file, you can just come to the properties through the context menu and double click override symbology, and then we can turn those triangles off and it'll just override it for this file. Let's look at our models real quick. You'll notice that even though we created a 2D model, we now have a 3D model in there that got created when we brought in this 3D model. So I'm going to hold down the right mouse button and bring up this quick menu, and under view controls I'm going to do two views, plan and 3D. That way I can see our 3D model over here, and then I can also work over here in my 2D view. So it looks like we have some PCs maybe not any curves. If we wanted to look at the surrounding areas, I can just come over here to my background map and select aerial, and this will bring in the maps from Bing, and it'll put them on the background, and we can double check, make sure. It's not going to line up perfectly, but let you see if there's a curve in the road. We got a straight shot. So first I'm going to create this alignment for S228, and to do that I'm going to go to the OpenRoads modeling workflow, and then under the geometry tab I can create a line. Make sure you choose the feature definition. You can go back and change it, but if you do, then you'll have to rename it. So I'm going to go ahead and set my feature definition. Relocate it, and we'll call this S228. And I'm going to select my POT here, and then do we have a vertical? I actually might have a curve. It's okay, we can go back and put curves in this. as we move forward. So I'm going to snap to that point. And there we have, you can see the symbology is already set up. I'm going to hit escape to get out of that tool. And then we can go back. It doesn't look like there's a curve in there. If there is, it's very small. If you wanted to, you can go to arcs, hit the drop down, and you can do arc between elements. And this will, alright, no, that's not the one. We want to insert arc. We can do it that way. Yes, we're going to keep it straight for now. If we did, for this example, if you did have a curve, you could do this line and then set your feature to relocated. Let's say you were having a curve, you could snap to your line, or your VPI, not VPI, PI. And then you can come back and you can create your curves, arc between elements. Just keep your, make sure you keep setting your features right. You can type in parameters. It's very dynamic. Do a 500-foot radius. And then we'll want to trim both. There it is. And then this complex geometry tool you can create just like you created those shapes in MicroStation. It's similar to that tool. Come up here and do alignment. Relocate. And then I'm going to choose automatic, and it's just going to grab all those elements, or you can do them manually and select them. But you can even see that arrowhead at the end of that line. There it is, and then you just left click to accept, and it'll combine all those individuals into one long chain. If we go to the Project Explorer, well, before we do that, you can also move these if you needed to, and it'll adjust. Just be careful if it has trouble solving it. Like, watch this. Once the curve goes past, you see that red X that came up on that line at the beginning. It's going to make it, I just say sick, but it won't solve that. But yeah, so back to the Explorer. If we go to our OpenRoads model, if we drop that down, we can see all the different features that get created in there. So if I open up alignments, we should have 2 alignments. Yep, we got the complex, and then we got the straight line. So that's very useful when you need to go in and make changes or delete things. So I'm just going to delete that complex. Excuse me. So now let's go in there and create the profile for this line. To do that, I'm going to hold down the right mouse button, bring up my quick menu, and then I'll go to View Controls, and I'm going to do Plan and Profile. Then it's asking me to create a dynamic profile. I'm going to select Yes or OK, and select my plan element, and then click inside my view, and there we go. And we can see our existing ground. If you do not see your existing ground, it probably means your terrain is not set to active. Remember that first step we did in this exercise? You can tell it's active because there's not a star on it, so that's why we see it. And then there's tools. We can use the tools on the ribbon, or we can use the tools on the Windows menu down here. You just hold the button down, and it'll bring up all the different tools we can use to create a vertical profile. So I'm going to do profile line between points. And just like we did that complex geometry for the horizontal, I'm going to do the same thing for the vertical. So I'll choose relocated, and we'll name it later. We just want to snap to the existing ground. I didn't have this view active, that's why I had to click again. And you can always come in here and change these later, depending upon your design standards. I'm just going to create some segments. Bridge probably close to flat, but we can come in there and edit that out. We'll get to that as we go. And you'll see the power behind the OpenRoads technology. Alright, so I'll exit out of that tool, and then if we go back to our toolbox, I'll left click and hold it down, and I'm going to come down here to curve between elements. Again, I want to check my tool settings. I want to trim both. I'm not going to set those yet. I am going to set the back and verticals to 0. And I'm going to set my feature definition to relocation. Some people might want to work in Sketch or whatever. So, see, that's that offset, so that's set to 0. I'm going to left click to accept, and then I'll click the second. I'm just following my prompts. Left click again, and then I can come back and set these parametrics. I'm going to keep it close. I'm going to do 375, and left click to accept, and trim both, and there it goes. We can just work our way through, clicking and accepting. This one looks a little bit longer. We don't want to go past our previous curve. So that would be 200. Make sure we're on the right side. There we go. Now trim both. This one looks like it'll be a little bit longer. Probably too long. No, that'll work. And we want to trim both. Almost messed up. You can always go back and trim them manually. This tool just adds that in the creation. Let's do 375 again. There we go. And then, so those are all individual pieces. I'm going to come up here to my vertical section in the geometry tab and hit this complex tool. The first one is profile complex by elements. I'm going to keep it on automatic and keep my feature definition, but this I'm going to give it a name as a relocated 228, and then just P for profile. And then select my first element, and it'll go through and grab them all. I'm going to left click again to accept that, and it joined them. So now when I pick it up, it's all right there. And we can go in and we can make changes if we need to. If we find a radius that doesn't work or a grade that doesn't work, and we can move them. And there's our design. If we were to come over here and move our horizontal alignment, watch how that existing ground will change, and we can see it right there. It's live and dynamic in our profile view. So I'm just going to snap that back. And oh, one more thing, just like the terrain, we need to make that profile active. It may have done that one. No, it did not. Alright, so you see how there's that little star right there. I'm going to left click, and then that made it active. So if we look at our horizontal alignment, it'll say right there in that yellow box active profile, and then it tells us our name. Let's look at our PowerPoint. Yep, that's it for part 3. Thanks for watching.